One of the most anxiety-inducing situations is when you're running a team or a company and you know you've made a bad hire. You're 2 or 3 months in, you realize I screwed something up. This is not looking good. Going down the wrong path here with a candidate that's now an employee. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, it's happened too many times. I'll tell you that.
You and I both.
You see pretty quickly, right? Like I think a lot of times we look at when we hire somebody, we bring them in, you can tell if they're going to be the right type of person within the first 2 to 3 months. If you're a hiring manager and you make a bad decision, I think there's a couple different ways you approach it. Number one, I think you hit it head on. I think you try to document everything that you have to. I know that in the past, in my previous role and our previous roles, our HR person on our team was kind of like our best friend, right? We would talk to them a couple times a week. We would learn a ton about the processes and what to document and how to approach certain things. And with that, if you're a smaller company and you can't really afford an HR resource at this point, make sure that you have an attorney that you can bounce ideas off of, or if there is a situation that pops up, they can give you strong legal advice where you can bring that back to the employees and make sure that you're implementing that moving forward.
Not only that, but if you're a smaller company and don't have those HR systems and processes or personnel in place, you can lean on your attorney, but there's also a lot of free resources online or within your market. If you just Google HR partners and ABC market, there's a lot of people out there that are cost affordable. On top of that, we use a lot of free resources through our payroll platform.
Sure.
There's an HR help desk or HR documents that you can pull as needed and use those to kind of build out your own small company department for HR.
Yeah. So say you made a bad hire, maybe it's a couple months in, and how do you go about addressing that? Or like, what's the process? Like, you talk to your attorney, this person's not really working out. What do we do next?
Yeah, it depends. And every candidate's going to be situational, especially depending on what they're doing or what the issue is. But if I have a candidate and I know I made a bad hire, I'm going through and I'm checking the boxes. Early on, and this is what you want to be very thorough about, is expectations. The hours, performance, what they should be doing day to day, like the job descriptions. You are upfront about that. So if they come in and you're telling someone, hey, it's 80 cold calls a day and they're making 10, well, now you're able to, since you talked about those expectations, you're able to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So let's say we are a month into sales and they're not doing anything that they're expected to do.
Sure.
You can pull them into the side room or have a separate conversation and say, bad hire, this is what we talked about.
Yeah.
And this is what you told me in your interview. And you're excited about pursuing opportunities and growing your book of business and making the X amount of dollars, but your actions and your effort, they do not line up with that at all. Like, what's going on here?
When you have that scenario, right, and they're not matching up to the expectations, do you do like a performance review or performance improvement, or a PIP? I think is what a lot of people call it.
Yeah.
Scenario. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it's corrective action. If they have potential to do well, and let's say they're a cultural fit, but their actual performance is not lining up, and that's common. You have to give them some type of structure or guidance, or light a fire under their ass to make sure that they are getting to the point where you need them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if people are not bringing value and pulling weight, there's not a seat for them at the company. But again, legally and from a culture standpoint, you have to have some type of paper trail.
Sure.
Because if you blindside them 2 months in after they've been underperforming and say, listen, you got to go, see ya.
Yep.
Think, well, you're probably going to have a lawsuit in the near future.
Sure.
Legally, you need those things in place, but also once you have those conversations, now you're able to hold them accountable. You had the initial one, now you have paper document.
Yeah.
It doesn't improve, so now you're having a final, hey, listen, if you can't get to this point, which is where we need you, we got to let you go.
What if you have a person, and this happens a lot in our industry, right, or most sales companies, you have a person that's a rock star salesperson, but from a culture perspective, they don't really fit the bill. What do we do here? How do we have a performance review with our best salesperson or our top sales leader, whatever you want to call that.
These types of situations are where a company's true colors and culture shine.
Yeah.
And it starts from the top, it bleeds down from there. But your top performer is not a culture fit, or they're becoming cancerous to the rest of the team
Yeah.
for a number of reasons, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how important is that person compared to your culture?
Sure. How much time does it take out as a manager?
Correct. It consumes
The time commitment there,
and
oh man,
energy.
it's huge.
But yes, at the end of the day, they are not worth, and we say this often, but
Yeah.
no one is above the company, including you and I.
Yeah.
So if there is someone that is, becoming cancerous to our culture
Yeah.
for a number of reasons, whatever it may be,
Yep.
I'm not saying we have this, but
Yeah.
we have had it in past, positions.
Yeah.
They have to go if they do not improve.
Right.
But you can't sugarcoat this. You can't, have these fluffed up conversations like, hey man, can you be a little bit more nice
Yeah.
to so-and-so, or
Sure.
can you please show up at this time? It's, hey, listen, you're doing a great job from a sales standpoint, but you're awful from a culture standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's creating a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Issues that we can't have, and it's wasting my time and everyone else's time. So this is how we need to improve.
Time management, man, that's huge.
What about you? Have you, true examples? Have you had anyone
Yeah,
that
oh
you've
man,
had?
I think one of the best stories that I have, and this person was very early on in their sales career, but he had a tough time showing up to work on time. And we had 2 written warnings. On his final third warning, the guy's name was Brandon Austin, and he was in Fayetteville. And he, on his final written warning, or his final third warning, I said, you have to show up to work on time, or else you're going to be fired. At that point, and I think he was probably 3-4 months in. I love the kid, right? I saw so much potential in him, and it was killing me that he couldn't show up to work on time. So he turned it around from there. He ended up being a great salesperson, a great leader. He now manages a whole division in Dallas, Texas. The dude turned it around, right? And having that conversation with him, I'm glad that we did at that point, but it was becoming a distraction for the team. He wasn't necessarily a referral, but I did want to bring that up, with referrals. And you have somebody that we try to push referrals all the time, right? We want people that are, similar minded, where they're trying to achieve a certain level of success. How do you handle it if somebody that's good today, they bring in a referral and that referral just might not pan out? How do you handle that?
Yes, referrals are unique, and when we have some of our top producers referring, some of their friends or family, whoever it may be,
Yeah.
into interview, you can't just treat it as a cakewalk to a seat at a desk.
Yeah.
They need to be treated the exact same way.
Yeah.
Yes, you can keep that in the back of your head, but you still have to be equally thorough in your interview process, because you may miss some cues.
Yeah.
If you're just like, okay, great, referral, here's your referral bonus, when can you start?
My guard has been down so many times with referrals, right? Like, oh my gosh, I love Steve over here, and he's referring this person in. I'm going to ask a couple questions, and then he's pretty much hired.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to scenarios with you?
Yeah, it'll bite you.
Yeah.
It happens too often than not.
Yeah.
But, you also want to set that expectation with the team.
Yeah.
Our culture is about working your tail off, being a true teammate, living with integrity, working with integrity.
Yeah.
Make sure your values are very clear, and then drive referrals from there.
Sure.
If someone's bringing you a referral, it's not, okay, great, yeah, we'll interview them. It's, why are you bringing them in?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He just got fired for stealing. No, it's not going to work. I'm bringing him in because he's extremely passionate about, sales, and he's doing well. He just wants more opportunity. And I've known him since I was a childhood kid. He's phenomenal, competitive, confident. That's when you know, okay, yeah, let's check this guy out.
Conversation, for sure.
One thing that you and I both took away that we still do, we can do a better job with it, especially on the back end, but hiring profiles. Mm-hmm. Can you tell everyone listening or watching, what is a hiring profile, and how do you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, for all the listeners out there that are in a hiring manager position, these are things that we have learned over the years of hiring people, what's worked, what hasn't. So please feel free to use our experience as judgment. A couple of those things are low energy, bad body language, tons of excuses, during the interview process, a bad previous boss, or I didn't get along with my teammates at my previous company. Another piece that I love is anytime somebody goes to college and they don't have a good excuse for leaving or jumping ship. Well, they're probably, if they don't really like it here at Veritas in the first 6 months, they're probably going to look somewhere else, right? So do we want to spend all this time on the teaching, the training, the coaching, the first 6 months and devote our time, which is very, very slim these days, into coaching this person if they're just going to take off in 6 months? So I love to dig in on that, where if they went to school at Louisville and for 6 months and they didn't really like it, well, why? Why didn't you like it? Why did you leave? And if they don't have a good justification, or they don't have a good answer for that, yeah, I'm probably not going to hire them.
Here's a piece that a lot of people miss. You have your hiring profile, so those can be specific to each hiring manager. You have your knockout factors. Let's just say
Yeah.
negativity or domestic abuse.
Love a knockout fact. Yeah.
Green flags,
Yeah.
yellow flags, which, yellow flag might be something you're a little indifferent on.
Sure.
Red flags are like very concerning. But you have your hiring profile. You move forward. You keep notes throughout the interview process. Mm-hmm. You house those or try to keep those maybe in a filing folder,
Yeah.
cabinet, whatever.
Yeah.
You make a bad hire. You get that person out the door. The piece that people miss, if they get really, really good at hiring, a lot of things will work out for itself.
Right.
But if you're not learning from the mistakes, you're not going to help yourself. You're not going to help your team. You're not going to help your company, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
the point I'm getting at is, what type of reflection is done after you realize you made a bad hire, you got them out the door, to learn more about what types of mistakes did you make, or what did you not catch? What about that person in that interview process could you
Yeah.
have dug more into? Review their resume.
Yeah.
Go through it and say, I wrote a note about confidence or successful track record in sales, but like, I didn't really dig into,
Yeah, why not?
was he really that successful? Because
Sure.
I didn't dig in there.
Right, probably a referral. You probably gave them the benefit of the doubt, right? I think we used to have an old colleague of ours that used to, every December, they would go back and look at all the resumes for the year, who's worked out, who hasn't, and they started this process, and it went on for 3, 4, 5 years. Now they went back and they can really hone in on the attributes and the skills that these people have had, or the life experiences, which we've seen, a ton of people who've had hardship do really well in our industry. And they really hone in on these things so they lock in on what works and what doesn't.
That's great. That's probably something that we should start doing.
For
But,
sure.
if you can hire smart, your life will be a lot easier. We promise you. Want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in today. Please subscribe, leave your comments on horror stories with bad hires. We have these come out every Thursday. Looking forward to tuning back in next week.
I really got to a point where I really had to figure it out, and I hate admitting this, but it's just my truth. Is I've read all the books and the entrepreneurs stories where they say start with one product and one service and then grow it out from there, and I just ignored it. I felt that I could just tackle the world, and it was just stupid. There's just no reason to do that.